Alright, so, hello everyone, and welcome back to Satisfactory. So, when we left off last time, we had finished off producing uranium fuel rods, and we had just like technically a nuclear power plant set up, but nowhere near capacity. So, we are going to need to fix that. So, the first thing we need is we need our storage, because obviously if we're going to be producing a huge amount of radioactive waste, we've got to put that somewhere. And that somewhere is going to be over here. So, first step is going to be just making a blueprint machine, which is going to need a whole bunch of foundation, because I am not placing all of these storage containers by hand. That would be awful. Alright, so we just do something like that. And Blueprint Designer Mark II. Alright, so what we need is like basically just as many storage containers in one place as possible, so that I don't have to click that many times for this to work. So let's get... We're going to need a row of splitters, obviously. So we're going to start you there. And then the splitter will fit. And then we're just going to put a whole bunch of these guys side by side. And alright, we can't fit one more, that's fine. Let's see if we can fit a couple behind this first row. We can. And all of these can have belts going in. We can even get a third row, that's excellent. And now the question is there enough space here to put a second floor? Oh, I missed one. There, you go in. So now we get a second floor. And sure enough, the lift there fits within the blueprint. Which means we can just fill this out. Okay, now how is it that this one got placed in just fine, but the other ones was complaining? I don't know. It's working again now, so I guess we're just going to place all this stuff. And I think I did the math earlier, and I think one container is... Let's actually do the math again. So this is 6 times 8, so it's 48 slots. Each slot holds 500 uranium. And we were producing, I believe I had determined we were producing 25 times 40, which is like 1,000 waste per minute. So each box is, oh yeah, I actually have it here, is 24 minutes worth of waste. So how much is this giant blueprint going to be? Hopefully the answer to that is many hours. And then we can loop back around and just keep this going. This is going to take so long to get the belts in, but it will be very convenient to have. Alright, do we want to go another floor? Let's get the belts in first. So we are going to want, let's see, actually, what speed belts do we need? Because I want to minimize the amount of high tier belt stuff. So the incoming obviously needs to be a Mark 6. But with so many boxes, we don't need each of these to be able to handle the entire Mark 6. So let's go with Mark 5 because we have plenty of those. They produce very quickly. And an individual box won't be able to hold the entire output, but it also definitely won't need to. That's why we have a bunch of rows. Alright, row 1 finished. Row 2 can now go in. I should have done this before placing the rows on top of them. Alright, and then we have to do another row up here, which we need to be a bit above in order to be able to fly through. Alright, so that is that row connected up. Wait, no, that's just connecting these two multiple times. We don't want that, because that's just going to be a waste of resources. We need to go another level up. Alright, so then these guys will go out here. And we just have to get all these connections in. Alright, so that is the 3 floors we have connected on the front half. Now we have to go in and do the same thing back here between these rows. Alright, I apparently already did that last one. So then that one is one we skip, and we do this one. So we're just running through all these boxes, placing some belts. Alright, and then we just need, I believe, just one more row here. So these ones get connected up. And then they'll all be connected internally. Alright, now we just need to get the backs of these boxes together, which should be relatively straightforward. Just do like this. All these minimum size belts. Alright, so those are all in. Now we can loop back around to here. So, these ones, they loop in like this. Buildings. Alright, I don't know what it was trying to do there, but it was all confused. So now this just has to loop around to there. So let's just confirm that this works. We go in this bottom floor, we go around up to here, then we go through there and we go around up to there, and then this row is actually not necessary. That would just loop it back down and cause all sorts of weird stuff to happen, which I don't want. Alright. So do we add the top floor? How much is this? This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Times 3 is 21. Times 3... 21 times 3 floors is 63. So 63 crates times 24 minutes per crate, divided by 60 minutes per hour. This will last us for like a day. Alright, that's probably fine. And, I mean, a day of playtime is a lot of playtime, and I'm going to be setting up the plutonium production pretty soon. Like, the plutonium production is going to be the very next thing that I do. So, a full day of playtime should give me more than enough time to have that set up. And then these can just be Mark 5s going into here. And there we go. So if we want to scale this, we would just place more of these blueprints in. But we should be fine. So this is nuclear waste storage. Save blueprint, clear blueprint designer. And now we can see it is actually possible to place this all in one go with what we have. Although it's probably not going to be... Yeah, so we can place exactly one of these at a time, and that's only because we had a bunch of stuff already. Alright, so then you connect up to there. And that has to be filled up. So this is temporarily doing what it looks like, which means we should be able to test that this is working. So it loops all the way up to here and then deposits in the last row. All of these are receiving the waste properly. So as long as there's waste in all of these, then they're all connected up. Yep. All right. So that is our waste storage, at least for now. We might... I mean, at some point we might need to expand that, but probably not for a while. And so this is just obviously draining this box mostly to output slightly faster than it should be in practice. And it's obviously going fine. So that is all functional. Alright, so then the next thing we need to do is we need to get our remaining, what, like 38 nuclear power plants in, because we have 2. They each take 0.5 per minute, and we're making 20 fuel rods per minute. So that is going to be quite the significant effort, and is going to require a lot of blueprints. So let's set these guys to blueprint snap and then just spam them along this way. We're going to use up as much concrete as we can, and we should be staying close enough to these water extractors here that we can continue to fly without putting power poles in just yet. Alright. Is that gonna be long enough? Almost certainly not. It might be long enough for like a row of 10, and then we can do 4 of those in like a big square pattern. Alright, is there anything in this entire setup that we can reasonably blueprint? If we are very precise, we might be able to blueprint a lot of the logistics stuff. Not all of it, obviously. We're going to have to connect the stuff into the power plant itself. But, like, we can get the floor holes in and everything. So, let's do that. Because that is going to save a lot of work. It will take some effort getting set up, though. So we have our blueprint, and we need to get these like very precise spacing-wise. So, if we have our blueprint here, we're not going to be able to place this in the designer, obviously, because it's too big, but we can use it for spacing. So the output from one side is on this hash. So the waste output is there on that solid line. The fuel input is there, halfway between the solid lines, and the fluid output is there, splitting the middle. Alright, so that's easy to remember. There is just one tick each. So, let's see here. We set this up. We need a wall up 2. So this goes 8 meters up, and then it goes across like that. So we now need to get this set up. So the fuel input comes in on the left side of this. So we can get a conveyor lift. Actually, how is the spacing going to be? So the conveyor lift is going to be like centered on that. Then the waste output is going to be there. And let's see here. So the waste output is there, which is actually just going to be down here, directly beneath that. But we actually need that to be like a tick over to the side so that the two aren't in the way of each other. So then this gets connected into a conveyor lift there, which might or might not have a splitter on it, depending on other stuff. So if we just fill that out, the other thing to consider is this is probably going to be slightly off of where the reactor is, just because of the spacing. Those ones we made it very cramped, but I do want to leave room for that. Okay, and then is there any way of getting any useful blueprint in for the pipe? Not the way that I've done it. The way that I've done it, it's impossible. Alright, that's fine. So then, what I need to do is we need to get this belt going so that it can auto-snap. And we need to remove the wall now. Alright, so we are also going to need a power pole in here for the plant and for the water extractors that are going to be going below it. So let's just get one of those in so we don't have to place that. Is there anything else we can do preemptively? Not that I can think of now. So this is going to be nuclear inputs. So we just save that and we clear. And I don't know if this is actually going to work. We're going to have to find out. So if we just copy, paste U, and probably clear some of that space out there. And then we grab this blueprint. It needs to be aligned somehow like this. Take over to there. And yeah, so this doesn't align one-to-one with where the reactors go, which means we need to be more precise on the reactors' starting locations. So instead of just placing them all directly next to each other, the next reactor would need to go there. So if we just take that out and get you lined up like that, and then let's just push you forwards a little bit. Might as well put you there. So then this stuff all lines up. And okay, we can actually do the bottom side of this lift in the blueprint. And then let's just make sure that this continues to work. So if we were to just tile this, have that auto connect across, then there's going to be enough room for this guy to go in here. And alright. And then they line up like that, and we're good. Alright, that is not too bad as far as placement goes. So let's make that one improvement. I need a blueprint designer so we can fit just one extra little bit in here to make it just that marginal bit faster. Alright, so this belt goes down to there. And we save, overwrite the previous one, clear that out, and get rid of the designer. And we are now going to be bringing power across to these power poles as we go. And then we've got 4 of those, and we can just place a whole giant row of these guys in. So that's 5. We don't have to go back and forth placing them. It'll be faster to do things one at a time. That's 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Right, so then that goes over. I just realized I did make this. Yeah, that does definitely line up with the floor no below it. That's good. I had a brief moment where I thought that might not be the case, but it definitely is. Alright, so we have all of this set up. And this is going to be 1/4 of our overall production. So I guess we will get this powered and then put the reactors in and then work on the water extractors. Alright, so that goes out to there. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. And then these, I need to come up with a good way of getting them aligned in both directions simultaneously, and I think looking at it from this side will be the trick. So there we go. That one goes in. We can see the convenient little red lines when it's working. You two are going to go in there. And another one. And we're missing cables. Alright, the cables are filling very slowly. Suspiciously slowly, in fact. So we're going to have to figure out what that's about. We're only 2 shy of having this entire row done, though. Alright, so let's see, the whole waste row is set up except for this connection there. And then we have to get the outputs connected up. And we need a lot more cables before we can do that. Yeah, that makes sense. Alright, so these outputs are 25 wastes per minute each, right? Yeah, so these can take Mark 1 belts. And we can do that. And that. So these are the old ones that didn't have this lift in. And so you need a belt. And you need a belt. Alright, so now we can just run along, placing all the rest of these belts in, and hopefully we'll have the cables to finish off by the time we're done with this. If not, we can start working on the water extractors. Alright. Cables. We have enough for one more at least. And then we're going to have to run over and see what is actually gone wrong with cables, wherever those are being produced. So that goes in. Those go in. And I guess we can... This is going to be using cables to place all of these power lines in. But it has to be done at some point. Might as well be now. Alright, so then those last two are connected up in some other way. Alright, so finally we have our massive rows of water extractors that we need. And let's just work from the floor holes. So you get a floor hole there. And it's going to be just one off of the center of the foundation each time. So we just place that along until we get all of these. I really want to get the rest of the cables in just to finish this first row off before we go and investigate what's wrong with them. Okay, so that one gets it there. We're halfway. Halfway to having enough cables to finish the row. So now we can run back and connect. Wait, no, all these are wrong. We have to connect into the floor hole, not out of the floor hole. Otherwise, there's that one bug, which we need to not happen. Place them like this just to prevent that from ever occurring. Alright. All of these go in. And cable supply is up to 150. That's pretty good. Water extractors don't require cables. So I guess we can do this next step. So we get these guys in 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. and they are going to connect up. How did you wind up down there? Please be on the surface. Not sure how that happened. I've never seen that before. Alright, so now all these guys are connected. And they get a connection into there. And they get a pump. Alright. Let's see, how are we going to do this at scale? Because we have a whole lot of these to place. And it's kind of hard to get them aligned well. I guess we can skip a lot of space for this next row. And just place the water extractors in 3, 4, and 5. Really can't place those all the way out back there. So those go into that floor hole. Then we get these ones, which can go there-ish. One, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Then we've got this floor hole, which we get all these water extractors in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Get just a couple more of these. 2, 3, 4, and 5. There's so many water extractors that we need to place for this. And then we're going to have to connect all these up, which is going to be a massive nuisance. Yeah, the joys of creating large-scale power production. You have to do all sorts of weird stuff. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Alright, so all the water extractors are placed. Now we should have more than enough cables to get this last one in. And where does that alignment happen? Oh, this is flipped the wrong way around. That's why it's not lining up. Okay. So it goes in there and gets connected to those. And now, okay, we also have to make sure that that step gets done, so it's powered. And now it is just down to the water side of things. So I guess our next step is going to be connecting all of these guys up into their batches of 2. Just trying to parallel this as much as possible so that I'm not switching between tasks, because that does require a bit more effort. So all of these go in, and then we will worry about getting the now we have to get the pipeline junctions on, so we need 1 to connect back to that guy, 1 to connect up to there, 1 connect back to there, and 1 rotated to go up. So we just go like that, and like that. And we go like this. And then we just keep going. This is pretty decent progress. Assuming I've counted the number of pipeline junctions I need correctly, which I sure hope that I have. Alright, so all of those junctions go in. And then these ones get junctions. And then these ones get junctions. Which goes there, there, and up to there. Alright, now we just connect the junctions across like that. And like that. Soon we're going to have to power these and get the upwards connection on. Alright, there we go. There we go. So it's, I think, the last one that we need to do like this. Yeah, so that one is already set up like that, although we need to power it up still. Alright, so then, next step, connect all of these junctions up into the ceiling. It feels like that. Oh, the extractors themselves are just placed differently. That's why these are all slightly different. Alright, so now they're all connected. Last thing for building is pipeline junction or pipeline pumps. So you each just get a pump sending you up so that you can make it. What the? Oh, this one is just way back for some reason. Okay, right, I remember that happening. Alright, so we get all of those. And now it is power line time. So we just need to grab each of these power lines and start connecting them up to the various water extractors. And that's that one done. And we have to remember to get the pumps as well. So this just goes across all of these. It's hard to reach the ones in the back, so I have to get a good angle on both of them simultaneously. Alright, now we go over to this one. And just keep on connecting. Did I even get that one? I did. Alright, this is apparently almost too much even for the Mark III power poles. But it is barely enough, which is all that we need it to be. So all these connect down, and there we go. That one's done. Now we get this one, and okay. Something weird happened with the placement there, but I'm not sure what. It doesn't seem to have affected anything. And we got all that stuff in just fine. Alright, 3 more rows of this first row. Remember, this is only a quarter of the work. So all this stuff goes in. Like that, until we are done. So we just keep placing, Alright. One more water extractor on that one. Last row. And then we're going to go and investigate the cable production. Because it's probably just a conveyor lift on the boxes too slow. It's probably not that we're like actually short on cable, if I had to guess. Alright, we have to remember to get the pump. Alright. So that's all good. Apparently this one never got connected up to that, so pop that in real quick. And let's see here. Are these guys working? It looks like this last one it's obviously going to take its time filling up the pipes with water before it gets into the machine. But it should be there. Yep. So now these are all filled with water. And they all have the power shards placed in. So now the only thing left to do on this row is the fuel rod splitting. So let's just get that in, and that's just going to be a 1 to 10, which fortunately I do have a blueprint for a 1 to 5 splitter. There we go. Bring that one over. And we just keep it going. Just keep it going until this is all split up. Okay, that has to go from that one. And then we just need this last one. Alright, that is in. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we just need to get our 1 to 5 splitter blueprint in. So let's get some space back here for that. I'm going to need a little bit of that. And 1 to 5 balancer goes in here. Turn it off, auto connect mode, just do normal stuff. How much space do we even need? We've got to have space for like 1 belt to go over that way, that one to go over here, and 3 belts to go down this way. So honestly, that much space should be plenty. Alright, so then these are going to curve around like that. And yeah, that's just about right. Alright, so now these belts go down this way, and I guess we do need to move over a little bit to accommodate for that. And realize that we were not lined up in the same way back there as we are up here. Alright, so we need this one to go back to like here to have enough. Actually, no, it can still go out to like there and be fine. And then this one should. Can it fit in there? It can. Barely. Alright, let's change all of this stuff to Mark 1 belts because it's only going to be 20. And you don't want to mess with too much other than that, because that would result in all sorts of weirdness, because this is a 1 to 5 splitter, which means it's not trivial. Okay, that's done the annoying crooked thing. Back to default mode. Dismantle that. So the belts just go forward down this way. And then they graze past that. And eventually will reach their own destinations. So those two. Alright, so then you go in there, and you just continue across. It's kind of insane how long these distances are. between like pairs of reactors. Alright, so that goes into there. And now the only thing left to do is we run back this way. And we just have to do some reconfiguring over on this side. So that goes out. That goes into it. And then we have a Mark 1 lift come down and loop back this way and go into our splitter. And I have some of this stuff in my inventory because of course I do. So let's just get rid of that. And now with this, power production is going to spike like crazy. So currently we're like 225k megawatts. And once these guys get going, that should jump by a significant amount. I'm not sure exactly how much. I never did the math. It might be the case that this is like about as good as my rocket fuel power plant. It also might be significantly better. And I mean, the thing is, we're going to be using this and the rocket fuel power plant, so even if they are comparable, then it'll still be, you know, twice as much power. Let's do the math, actually. These should be 6.25k each. I have 10, so that should be 62,000. And of this 230k, 12k of that is already from this. So the rocket fuel power plant is doing like 210,000-ish. This should be adding an additional 60,000 onto that. And then when we have all 4 rows, yeah, this will be about comparable to the rocket fuel plant, but then we also have the plutonium stuff to deal with in the near future on top of this. Actually, let's fill my inventory with cables, since I know we're going to need as many of those as we can get. And yeah, so right now it's filling quickly, and it's probably going to stop filling quickly after a stack, because we don't have the proper lift in. So it's probably filling cables off of a Mark 1 lift, but it should be a Mark 3. Alright, yeah, so these guys are starting to warm up, and production is going up. Now, we've got a whole bunch of guys over here which haven't even started running yet. And already, power is looking a lot nicer. Alright, so let's do this now. Let's respawn and run over to the old factory by the space elevator, because that should be where the cable is being produced, unless I did something weird with it. So over we go. And we're dropping down. Alright, cable production, where are you? You're probably in this whole mess, aren't you? So we've got copper sheets, and yeah, we have cable production here. So, this is pretty awful in a number of ways. So let's overclock you. And that will then let us overclock you up to that. And that is producing 75 wire per minute, which will let us overclock this to like 37.5, which is technically better than it was. And it's actually going to be more than twice as good, really. So now this should be refilling the actual cable supplies a lot faster. And then we just need you to be a Mark III belt so that the uploading also goes faster. And in the meantime, is any of the rest of this stuff doing anything? No, that's all just doing random stuff. Alright, I mean, this is fine, probably. The stockpiles we have here are big. Let's see, it's 200 per power plant, right? So 200 per power plant, so that's a stack per power plant. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 power plants right there. And another 2-ish in there. So it might actually run out of cable supply, which would be a little bit awkward, but hopefully it'll be able to just barely keep up. And if not, we can maybe like yoink some of this into more cable production, but I don't think that should be necessary. Like I said, we're doing pretty well here in terms of the amount of cable we have. Because that's 4. This will be 4. Yeah, we should be fine. I think we're gonna leave it at that. And if we just have to stall and do something else for a couple minutes while we fill that back up, it won't be that bad. It would have been a problem prior to the power shards, but now I think it should be 37.5 is one reactor every, what, couple of minutes? Like less than 10 minutes per reactor, and we only need a couple more. So yeah, should be just fine. Alright, so now we're back over here. In the meantime, our first row is working at full capacity. Now, I want to just yoink those out of the way so that this can all be correct. Although, I suppose it's just going to keep filling up indefinitely until we get all 4 rows in, so that's probably just a waste of time until later. Alright, so this is going. How is our storage? Storage is filling up, but we have a lot of it. And hopefully I've done my math right. If not, then I guess we'll start grabbing some steel beams and pipes out of there for the future so that we can expand that. Alright, let's start working on the next row. So how much space do we need? We need enough space for the water extractors to not overlap. And that's going to be out to like there. And then we need enough space for another 1 to 5 splitter. And then a tiny amount of space for all of this stuff to go in. Should be just perfectly fine. So if we have that much space, let's see, we need to figure out how much space the water extractors gave. Like, at what point did these start? So right here, the first water extractor starts directly beneath the pump, the floor pipe. So that is important to note. And then that expands out to back here. So if we wanted to put another row in, the water extractor would be there, which means that the floor pipe would have to be right above it, like there. So let's get some space in for these guys. And let's do some foundations. So we can just spam a whole bunch of these guys in. Concrete. You use so much of it in order to accomplish anything. Alright, and then this needs to go out a little bit more over that way. And then we run over this way. And we need to keep just going over here and fill up some of this space. Okay. So, the floor pipe needs to be like here-ish. So, if we get our nuclear inputs blueprint and we pop it down right here, that... Actually, I think we might want this to be over 1, because the floor pipe is going to be there-ish. Yes, that's approximately the spacing we're going to be looking at. Which means we need a little bit extra on this. So this has to go out to here, and then it has to loop back. Alright, off we go. Just get this whole foundation in. And then I guess we're going to have to put another row of proper full-sized foundation squares in for the reactors to stand on, so we'll do that next. Those shadows create a weird optical illusion there. Alright, so this is in, and then we need to grab some more foundations and send them back this way. Alright, is that lined up? Yeah, that's lined up. Alright, I feel like we're probably going to discover just how far back into the ocean that we can build. So we are definitely gonna be going quite a ways. Alright, so we're out to there. And actually, I wonder if we can just place the water extractors more compactly to not have to go this far back. Oh, landed in the water. Maybe there is a decent chunk of space between them. Yes, so we could do that as an option. So let's actually just do that for this one specifically. So you get a water extractor like there, which we are going to hook up to that pipe there, and then power up by connecting to a power pole up there. So now that that is going, and it should start extracting. Yep, there it is. So now that that's going, we should be able to remove this water extractor without breaking the overall water output, because we got this guy in there instead. And that should then let us, well, I guess, just place this right back in, but as a water extractor for the next row. So then that will let us... Oh boy, we don't have power back there. Alright, back into the water we go. And if we just poke a hole in here, it should be open right now. Alright, so this is the water extractor in question, which means that we can move this blueprint quite a ways back. So you go all the way back to being like here. That's probably good on that side. We have plenty of room for inputs and stuff. Can we squeeze it one further to the right? That would be the best. Yeah, we probably can. So we also need to have it facing the right way. Alright, so you're in there, you're facing like that, and now we just need to figure out how you'd line up along this way. And I think the answer is like right here. No, it's definitely not. It's so hard to tell. Well, let's actually just get it lined up up here. So now we know that this is lined up, and we're just gonna nudge it back until we're happy with it. Right, back you go. And let's see, somewhere like that. Somewhere like that should be fine. Alright. So now we just need to tile this out a whole bunch. Alright, so we have those. That's 3. And what, we need a 4th back there. So that's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Yep, and then we just expand this out this way. So we get 5, 6, 7, 8, and a 9, and a 10. Alright, so now that's all in. Did we... Okay, I didn't set this back on auto connect mode, so we're gonna need to belt these guys along, which fortunately is the only bit of this that needs auto connect mode. So just a minor nuisance. Alright, that all goes in. And now we place in a reactor which lines up like that. Okay. So that is the start of the second row. And I think I want to just continue this all the way out until I have sort of the outline of it in a giant box, because that should account for any problems with running over the edge of the map. Alright, let's bring this power line back to here and then connect it up to something. And that's just so that we can continue flying around in the area. So, how much space is this? From here, it is 1, 2, 3, 4 into the next one of those. Alright, and it doesn't quite line up perfectly. So let's just get some more foundations in. So this is 1, 2, 3. Actually, let's just get this placed so that we can do this as we're holding it. You need to be on default mode to start with. And the lift is in the center. And there's 3 tiles off from the side. So just something like this is lined up correctly. And then as far as this direction goes, we have 1 tile, 2 tiles, 3 tiles, so this is like 3.5. That should still be plenty, I think. Did I build this backwards? I built this backwards, yes I did. Alright, so let's just get the same thing in the same place, but facing the other way. Alright, so then that goes into there. And the power connects from there up to there. And now we get our foundation pieces in here. Which, I don't know why. Oh, because it's not in blueprint mode. That's why it's not snapping in correctly. Alright, so that then goes out to back there. And our power plant then needs to line up with it. Like this. Alright, so we have now 3 rows outlined. We just need to get the last one. So we have this, which goes to default build mode. And you are going to be lined up like that. And then spaced back there to like 3.5. And then that goes in. We bring the power back to here, which we might need more power poles on this first row because of how much we're using it for. Set you to default build mode so you can expand out like that. And then we get a nuclear power plant, which lines up like that. Alright, so that is 1, 2, 3, 4 rows of nuclear power plants and their inserters. Now we have to see if the water extractors all fit. So we grab you, and you are gonna start. Actually, let's get the floor holes in first so that we can see where we're going. Floor hole goes out to there, and then you pop down into it. Alright, so that is actually very close to where this one ends. So if we just pop you into there, then we go 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that is gonna be an issue. We have like one more than we can fit. So I guess let's just build this whole thing in and then just see how it lines up. So you get that, and then we can fly back to here. And you... Why is it doing weird stuff? Just do auto build mode. Thank you very much. Alright, so we have these 5 which are going into that one. Then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And 1, 2, 3, 4. We're out of power. Alright, can I please get out of this awful... Alright, we managed to get out of that. I really hate it when that happens. I wish it would just not be like that. Alright, so we place a power pole out there so we can fly. And I did, unfortunately, lose count with all of that. I think we needed, like, one more. I don't know, we're going to have to just put all of the pipe connections in and see what happens. Alright, so these are going to all go together like this. So that's one set, which goes up to there. Then these guys all connect up like that. That's 2 sets. Okay, and then these ones we did, as I suspected, need exactly one more. So these ones connect up. And where are they going? Surely it's not all the way back to this one. Oh, it is. Okay. I mean, I guess that's fine. Right? Like, this is not all that far, really. Alright, so then these ones are a group. Let's connect them up. And we also need... Let's just make sure all the groups are properly connected up, because I did leave that. Might as well have this done for this first row. Alright, so then you guys will connect up to that. And then these guys we will connect up to that. Alright, so it gets a bit sketch near the edge. Like, the space, which we're not having, does sort of run out as we go. But there is enough, ultimately. Like, we're not going to have issues with that. We're just going to need, like, one more... just a little more foundations to cover these guys up if we want to, or maybe we don't want to. Alright. So now this is all set up. Our next step is filling in this whole giant area, which I'm going to do from ground level for now. And then we can get the other input systems set up after this. Alright, so these go along, and then we need that last row. And then we need to run back over this way and get all of these in. And now we're going to be out of concrete. So let's move on from that for now, although the input system also uses a decent chunk of concrete, so that might be an issue. I guess we can just run these power lines across for now. Alright, so the concrete refills insanely quickly, so we shouldn't have too much problems on that end. Alright, so that row is all connected up now. So that's cool. Now, let's see here. How much concrete? We're already up to like 1,000. Let's place a couple of these nuclear reactors while we wait. Because this is also something which we might wind up waiting on resources for in the future, so just the more of that we can preempt, the better. Alright, so these all go in. Getting them lined up is a bit of a nuisance, but it could be a lot worse. It could be the water extractors, which is by far the worst part of this. And there's a very good argument to just overclocking water extractors. Oh, nuclear power plants also require concrete. Okay, understood. We will... Everything in this entire system requires like 1 billion concrete, apparently. So I guess we will move on to our main goal, which is going to be finishing off these input systems. This requires really very little concrete. Oh, auto connect mode. Let's just dismantle you and rebuild you in auto connect mode. That will save us a good chunk of time. And we're gonna be walking here because power range is not long enough. Right. So back we go. We are like, okay, if we fly back here, we can hover because we're close enough to that row. Alright, so that is that entire row done. And concrete supplies, still not incredible. Okay, so we are just gonna run this line of power across. And off we go. Get all of these. And soon they'll all be powered up. Alright, so now that whole row is powered. And I just wanted to confirm that the blueprints we used for these all had power shards in them, which they did. Well, not blueprints, but copy-paste. Okay, let's see how close we can get to finishing off the concrete floor. So we're going to need a couple more rows of this, which is going to need more waiting for concrete. Although it's really not that bad. Like, compared to basically any other resource, 175 concrete is extremely affordable. Alright, so we're almost done with this row, and then I think this row goes far enough back to get all the inputs in, and then it'll just be another row or two for the reactors back there. So that is pretty nice. Alright, we just wait for this, and that is in. Alright, now we run back over this way. And what is there to do that doesn't require concrete? Basically nothing. The reactors require concrete. The input systems require concrete, although not nearly as much. The foundation obviously is all concrete. Alright. We should probably be fine, because these are only 74 each and they take a little bit longer to line up than the floors. So we should probably be able to just place all of these in without stopping. And this is why dimensional storage throughput upgrades are incredible. Alright, off we go. Alright, is that the last one? Yes, that is indeed the last one. Alright. So we have one more row, no, two more rows, looks like, of foundation blocks. We've got all these power lines to connect up. And we've got a whole bunch of belting to do for load balancing and the like. So I could take a brief detour to do some of that. Alright, so now that whole row is powered up. So that's all the power poles charged up and ready to go. Alright, how's concrete going? Yeah, concrete is going. It might actually be slowing down at some point. We don't have infinite concrete production or storage. We have a lot, but I don't know quite how much as it compares to what we're using it for, which is basically everything. Alright, so let's see. The first row is done, so we can get the second row belted up now. So you get one of those. And we're just gonna get all these guys in. And off they go. And actually, I think it'd be more convenient to be doing the splitting on the left side of the sets of two, just because of where the input is going to be coming from. Alright, so that goes across. And then that goes across. Alright. So that's that whole thing in. How's our concrete doing? Concrete's doing pretty good. Let's... Yeah, so concrete is just about filled. Let's grab all of that into the inventory just to keep it overfilling. And then we're going to run in and do hopefully just both of these last two rows. Which hopefully shouldn't be too difficult. And then once the foundation is in, the reactors require a lot of concrete, but they also just naturally require a bit of extra time to align in place. And the input systems are all in already. So we are almost done with the concrete demand. But there we are. Triggering that again. Alright, let's just put some splitters into here while we're here. So that goes out like that. And then you can go in. Just put a whole bunch of splitters to get this whole thing load balanced. And yeah, we're finally doing load balancing in the one part of the game that lots of people will agree needs load balancing. And so I'm kind of tempted to manifold it just to be contrary, but I'm not going to do that because it would be extremely annoying. The people who think that this is a place where load balancing is important are correct, ultimately. Alright, so that is in, and concrete should be filled up enough to finish. Alright, that is all in. And we are almost done with the 1 to 2 phase of the load balancing. I believe we just have this one row here left to do. Alright, so you go in there, and then it's going to be a question of the 1 to 5 phase of the load balancing, and then getting the reactors actually in, and then finally the gargantuan task of the water extractors, which I'm not looking forward to. Alright, so then this one covers out those, and the 1 to 2 phase of load balancing is officially entirely complete. So now all we have is the 1 to 5 phase, and I guess technically the 1 to 4 phase to get to the rows individually. Alright, so let's go back to the front of the rows, and I'm going to use a little bit of concrete here, but not all that much, not like a meaningful amount in the grand scheme of things. So you need some space, and you need a 1 to 5 balancer, which comfortably fits into this. Alright, so we need to get the alignments on this stuff good so that we are not wasting space as much as possible. So to do that, we're going to need an additional row there. And then these all come out like this. Now, that is all done doing under the assumption that this belt goes in properly, which it doesn't. So we're going to have to shift this whole thing ever so slightly to the right. So all of these guys are going to go out. And let's actually just have it come from here. So you curve out as straight as you can is out to there. So you then sort of loop back like that, and that is where you're going. Then the rest of these are going to come out to take their places next to it. And that will be that. Alright, so we have that, and now we just have to run all these down, but before I do that, let's just get the rest of the front portions of 1 to 5. So this is expands out, takes up some space, and then that is going to have to exist probably. Then we get our 1 to 5 balancer, and we are going to pop it in there-ish. And if we place that correctly, the first one just lines up properly naturally. Now all the rest of them have to sort of come over this way, like that. And then let's just start sending them down, I guess. While we're standing here, we can give them the first little batch of distance. And we need one more of those, and we might want to move the front rows 1 to 5 splitters so that it's consistent with the rest of this stuff. I don't know if that's necessary or not, but it might be something that we do. Alright, 1 to 5 balancer lines up to there. And yeah, that actually looks like it is lined up properly with the other one, which I don't really care about because they're too far apart to tell, which means that I can't see it and get annoyed. Alright, so these all go in like that. And then they can scoot forwards. And there we are. Alright, the concrete, we're going to want to fill our inventory with some of that before we use it on all of the reactors. And probably cable as well. Alright, let's just start getting these reactors in then. That's going to be the next step. We have the 1 to 5 splitters mostly in. It's a bit weirdly set up, but it is set up. And the reactors are going to take a bunch of resources, which we want to make sure we start using now in case we need to refill, which we probably will. Alright, so that is lined up. And in it goes. Then we get this one, which is now lined up and placed. Then we get this one right there. And we get one more in this row right there. And the cable supply is already having problems again, which is entirely unsurprising. So let's just run some belts along for the 1 to 5 system, and the cables will show up over time. We are halfway, technically slightly more than halfway done on the reactor placing. Okay, this area is... apparently this is filled enough with radiation that the bubble is starting to get a bit big. That's fine. Alright, forwards. Go with all of this. And now all this goes forwards. And we need to expand that foundation out as well. Fortunately, we're no longer in super desperate need of concrete for most things, because cable is going to be the limiting factor on the reactors, and most of the other stuff we've used concrete for we're done with at this point. Alright, so that goes in, and the rest of these keep on running forwards. And we need to make sure to use default build mode on the straightaways. Alright, let's just get this whole foundation in preemptively, because we're going to need it all the way down. So we just run this along. And how's cable doing? We can fill up another set in our inventory, and then just have that be prepared for the future. Alright, so that is good. Now these guys can go forward some more. And forwards we go. Just placing a whole lot of belts. That one goes into there. And then finally, this is the last one. It is going to go all the way out to there. Alright, so the second row is now all set up except for the water extractors and technically putting those power lines in. So that's pretty neat. Alright, let's run back here, grab a couple extra cables, and start using them. So we can get some power plants in. That's apparently lined up to there, and we just need to send you back to that. Then you get lined up that same way. It sure is a cable-intensive process. That is for sure. And also supercomputers and some other stuff, although the actual numbers there are small enough, and my productions on those, assuming they're functional, should be more than enough to deal with these numbers, but because those are all things that I have produced mega scale versions of, whereas the cable is just sort of old and scuffed. Alright, so that is all we can do on the power plant placing for now. So we can loop back to this. Foundation goes forwards. And forwards we go. It'd be nice if I could run this backwards, but I just don't know exactly where everything needs to line up to in terms of like how far out the belts go. So we have to fly all the way back here and run them forwards from this. Alright, so this belt, we go forwards, and obviously the first bits are going to be harder because we have more belts to drag. Every belt we bring in, we don't have to keep up for the future ones. So that can go out to there, which will hopefully be close enough. There we go. Okay, now we have a whole other set to go. And we are just dragging some belts. There we go. That's another one in. And these ones are going to go as far forwards as we can get them. Alright, that is in. And we just keep going. And that is that one. Alright. So now let's see, we have the power plants to finish off this row. So let's do that. And they go in like that. And one more. Like that. Alright, we now have only a single row left undone in terms of power plants and the 1 to 5 belts. So we're making pretty excellent progress there. Let's run this foundation across. And so once we're done with this, we'll have the water extractors and connecting the power plants into the belt systems, which should be just like very fast. So yeah, we're making progress. There's still a long way to go. I think the important thing when you got long projects like this is you just have to sort of take it one step at a time. Like, okay, why does that go diagonally like that? Why did you do that? That's definitely not correct. Yeah, so your straight was supposed to be out to there. So yeah, in order to not get discouraged for big stuff like this, you gotta have enough different things that you could be working on that like you hit meaningful milestones every so often. Like if I was doing every single reactor, get it all set up, then move on to the next one, firstly, that would take a lot longer because switching between tasks takes time. Like you have to, change things in your hotbar, change what you have selected, and so it would take a lot longer. It would also be a lot less encouraging because you would be like, okay, well, I've done this process once, and I have to do it another 39 times, and then another 38 times, and then so on and so on. Whereas with this, because I'm doing different steps individually, it's not nearly as long before I can say that I've done the last bit of some particular thing. Like just now, I have finished off running the belts into the 1 to 5 splitters. I never have to do that again. So that's like meaningful progress. The type of task that I'm doing has changed, and now I can call that a win. So as far as cables go, we've got another 3. We need like 6 more because we've got 1 there. We've got 3 worth of cables in there, and this row is 10 long. So next step is let's get all of these connected up to the belts, because currently these are just sort of sitting like next to the belts, kind of. So all we have to do is connect all these guys in, and we can do that. It'll be easier for most of these which don't have pipes on them. And we just run along doing this until we are finished. And then once we are finished with this, we might... Our next step might be to connect the actual supply of fuel rods up, because that's going to be something that we're going to have to do at some point, and it'll take a long time for it to go across all these Mark 1 belts. So if we can just get that jump started so that by the time all the water extractor nonsense is done, the stuff can start up immediately, that would be cool. Alright. Let's see, this is, I believe, the 3rd row. Yeah, so there's 1 more row after this, which we can't entirely do because it doesn't have all of the reactors in, and this step does require the reactors to actually exist. So hopefully our cables will have shown up more by then. Speaking of which... Okay, that's not good. 2, 3, 4... We have 5... So yeah, I think now we have officially just run out of cables in storage, which means that the remaining reactors are going to be pretty significantly delayed. because we're going from 240 a minute to 37.5 a minute now that we've run out of all that. The good news is we don't need all that many. We very nearly got finished. So let's just get what we can placed, and then we can even just do the math to see how much we have left. Alright, so this goes in. Slide you around like that. So we can place 2 more of these cables before we run out. Alright, 1 more. There we are. Alright, so we need 4 more reactors at 200 cables each. That's 800 cables. We're getting 37.5 a minute. So, theoretically, it'll take like half an hour. And because it's actually 800, we don't even need to worry about like filling up our inventory with cables. The dimensional storage can hold that many. So that is fine. Alright, so time to do everything we can do without the last couple reactors in. So let's finish connecting this row up. So we're gonna have to come back to this step in the near future once we have the last 4 reactors. But this will make that a relatively quick process once we get back to it. And all the other rows are finished up on that front. Okay, so the thing that we can do that doesn't involve interacting with the reactors or caring about whether they exist or not is the water extractors. So we need to get the floor holes in so that we can measure up where exactly they're going. And that needs to be done every row starting from this one. So the floor holes just go back on this line in between sort of the 3/4 mark of the foundation. Alright, so this is technically going to be minorly more difficult for the last couple where we don't have the reactors in, because we'll be lining up purely based off of the splitter and the conveyor lift, but that's not really difficult. And also, it doesn't really matter if it's slightly crooked. Alright, so these floor holes go in, and we're just gonna, once we're done with this, we're gonna check when we have our 800 cables, and hopefully that will be quick. Alright, so you are going with the same spacing, just there, for each of these. Alright. That one goes in. I keep wanting to put it a tick too far to the left, which is definitely not where it goes. So let's just be careful about that. But it should be easily avoidable. Alright. Last row, and this row is the incomplete one. So we just have to get all these placed in. And just keep on going. Right now we're at the point with the incomplete ones, so we just have to line it up based on the other stuff, not the actual fluid output, which is pretty easy. There's also only 4 of the incomplete ones. Alright. The floor holes are all in. And are the cables... Yeah, the cables are still going. They'll be at that for a while, I think. So now we just need to get underneath to the water extractors and start putting those guys in. And that is sort of just going to be the big process. Alright, how much power actually? 20 megawatts. Now if I were to max overclock you, it's not going to say because it's not powered up, so it's not doing anything, so I need to find one that's actually doing something to see what the effect on power is. So you're 20 megawatts. If I do that, you're 67.2 megawatts. So we're multiplying it by 2.5, multiplying the power demand by over 3. That's still only like a couple megawatts wasted. And it's going to save a ton of work placing water extractors. Yeah, that's probably worth it. So, in that case, we just need like 2 of these, right? So yeah, now we have 2 of these, making 300 each. And, okay, wait, don't power line them up to each other. That would definitely not work. So then that just goes up to there. And now we have plenty of space to get these guys in. They can just sort of go in wherever. And I copy pasted the version with the power shards. Alright, so then this comes out to here. Yeah, I don't like working with water extractors because they're so fiddly and like they don't like line up to a grid or anything because they go on the water. It's just kind of gross. And now each of these is going to need a pump as well, but that will be the next stage. Alright, so now we just go back to here and get these guys in and connect them up. Going all the way out to there for this one for some reason. Alright, so then you get to go in. I feel like I made those crooked somehow, but it probably doesn't matter too much. Okay, so then we can rely on these existing ones here to build off of. And you go forwards to that. Alright. I used up all the power shards in my inventory, which means now I have to grab some more. And then paste the settings, which should also paste the power shards. Alright, so at what point did I run out? Did you have power shards? No, I'd run out already. Alright, so these are all set up. Okay, this one doesn't need them because this is part of a batch of 5, which is fine. So now we have to go back and check this row to see if any of these ran out of power shards or if it was just precisely between the 2 rows. Okay, here's where I ran out. So you need 1 extra, you need 3 extra. Alright, power shards are all set up. There's so many rows left. I think it might be easier to do it in the rows of 10 rather than in these rows of 2 that I've been doing, like 2 or 3. Yeah, so let's let's get you guys in. And we're also going to just skip the pipe building for now. So these guys all just go forwards like this. And this is a lot quicker than doing it the other way. Alright. Power shards, supply, still doing fine. I will stop at this point to connect all these guys up. And then bring the pipes up to the top. Alright, what is this guy doing here? Oh, you're just chilling. Yeah, okay, I don't care about you. You aren't necessary because this batch already has its 5, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, so that's all good. Okay, so now we just have to hook these guys into their designated spots, which are way up there for most of these. Alright, that, and a little bit more. And then we can do that. One more on this row, and we're done with that. Okay, we'll do the pumps later, I think. For now, just having all the water extractors in is good enough. So now let's sail up this way and get our next row. Alright, so you go here, and in those two spaces, and then you go there. We're just trying to get these lined up properly. It's not an exact science, and the pipes can handle a decent amount of wiggle room, but getting it close to begin with certainly helps a lot. And I still have over 100 power shards left in my inventory, so there's no need to worry about that. Alright, so those are all in. Now we get the pipes across, and then we get the pipes going up. And then the process of powering all this up is going to be an absolute nightmare. That's going to be the most annoying thing by far, I think. I think we're actually just going to bring the power lines down here into the ocean and see what we can do with that. That would be much easier than constantly going up and down like I did for the first row. Alright, so you go up to there. And you go up to there. Alright, I believe we just have one row left to do, maybe? Yeah, we just have this one. And power shard supply is under 100, so let's just grab another stack of those. And that should last us through to the end of this. Alright, is that, like, close enough? Yeah, that's probably close enough. These ones are rough because there's just so much space back here. I don't know why this is all, like, slightly different from each other in terms of the spacing. Like, it feels like those two rows are closer together than the previous two rows were. I don't know, maybe I'm just crazy. Alright, then we get those ones, and we get these ones. So we connect them up. And there we go. Alright, now we just get all of these in. Okay, that did not snap properly. I think I just nudged my mouse ever so slightly at the last second. Alright, then this one goes in. Okay, it actually has to go, like, directly up. And then that one goes in there. And we get these ones. Just a few more. Those ones go off to the side for some reason. These ones go way off to the side for some reason. And I believe we are done. I believe that is all of the rows connected up. Now, can I get back up top from here? I can. And the cable supply is still horrendous. I wonder if we ran out of, like, copper ore back there or something. Who knows? But it's not that big of a concern. We are going to start doing the powering. Actually, let's do the pipeline pumps first. So each and every one of you gets a pipeline pump. So there we are. It has to be just like a little bit up the pipe, but not too much, otherwise it might break or something. I don't know. I don't know how much the head lift the water extractors provide is. I have no idea. Alright, so then we have these ones at the back, which also need this. Alright, so that goes up, and then we have to do this row. And each of these is sort of like a batch of 3 buildings, 2 water extractors, and a pump. So I guess we could just use like Mark II. You can almost use Mark I's, but it wouldn't provide the ability to like connect them across to each other, which would be important. Alright, so now these guys get their pumps. And we just keep going across. And these ones have the farthest distance to go for whatever reason. And then this one we might have to change slightly. Just have you go out a little bit more. Because if you clip through yourself, it's fine, but I just can't fit the pump on the pipe. Alright, so that is all of those done as far as the pumps go, and now we need the power cables. So you come down here, and actually, did I ever unlock like ceiling hole mark not ones? Don't have screws. Grab some plates. The classic ultra late game manual craft screws. We just have to get up to 200 of these so that we can place a shop. Yes, I've never added screws to my dimensional storage because it's entirely pointless. But it does make placing the awesome shop on the 5 times a year that I want to do it a little bit more annoying. Alright, I do have wall outlets. I don't know. We'll get wall outlet Mark 3s, unlock that, and dismantle you.
Use of these products invalidates any warranty. Function not guaranteed.
Alright, so now we can take you and I don't know why this is it because it's like a ceiling hole specifically that it doesn't want to work? Alright, so let's see if you come down to here and not to there. Then this is, yeah, it's still a wall outlet Mark 1. Which is kind of a problem, because I want it to be a wall outlet Mark 3. So let's place that in, and then start getting these guys connected up. And then, yeah, so if I just drag this one around, it'll be fine. So we get all these guys powered, and then we can just do this. So all these guys are getting powered up, and they're going to be filling out their sinks nice and fast. And then it'll just be a matter of getting the fuel in pretty soon, once all these guys are powered up. Assuming I haven't missed any. So that goes, you get powered up. And then we take this forwards a bit more, sort of just central to there, I think. And we can get some of these guys. And it's so hard to click on this when the wires are in the way. I wish the wires wouldn't be in the way of trying to drag new wires. Alright, just keep going forwards. And we're leaving enough empty space on each of these that if we did miss anything, it'll be fine. So that is all connected up. And now we just have to connect up this last row, or second to last row. There we go. So now this goes a little bit forwards and gets these last couple machines. Alright, so that is that row all finished. Now we just have to go over to here and just work our way back. So make sure to also get the pumps, otherwise it doesn't work. There's got to be a button for just connect everything up in this area. And one of the things that I dislike about water extractors is that, like, they're totally the right size to be blueprintable, but they just aren't because of the fact that they're technically like a resource extraction thing. But being able to blueprint this so I don't have to place all of these wires every single time would certainly be quite a big quality of life improvement. Alright, so now we just keep going. And I'm pretty sure I missed a pump or two. Okay, yeah, I missed that one. I have to get that one. I didn't miss the one back there, so that's good. So we go a little bit forwards. Get all of you powered up. And then we can get you guys powered up. There we go. And another bit forwards. This is not as bad as I was worried it was going to be. It's not exactly a convenient process, but it could be a lot worse. The ceiling power line is saving a lot of time. So that has to get powered up. Everything on there is powered up. Okay, so now we can just bring this one over to here and get these machines going. And we already have their pump. Alright, so now we just have like this last row of unoverclocked machines, which as long as they're there, they're technically slightly more power efficient, so I'm not going to like dismantle them and replace them or anything. Alright, so that is all in. Now we just have this one last row, and the water extractors will finally be done. So you go up to there, and we just connect you up to everything you can. So that's those ones, and it's these ones here. Alright, did I miss anything? Yes, I missed that one. Alright, so that's fine, and then we're going to use another connection here to go forwards. We're almost done. We're almost done with this whole nuclear plant, actually, and then we have to worry about the plutonium, but I think that's going to be a separate project. Like, I think we're going to move through probably like some actual progress, like what the neuroquantum processors or something, because those will give, I think, like better blueprints or something, and better blueprints will make that easier to do as well. The reason we dropped everything to do this was because the power situation was so bad, but once this power plant is fully online, the power system should have tons of slack in it, assuming that nothing breaks, which it seems like it should be fine in theory. The plastic supply has me a bit nervous, but plastic supply is connected up to like the main, it's first priority on the plastic output, so as long as the oil input doesn't have issues, it should theoretically be all fine. Alright, so the cables, how are the cables? We have enough cables for 2 more machines. Has that changed at all? Alright, this is pretty brutal. We need to go investigate again. I want to have all of the reactors in before I actually connect up the fuel cells, or fuel rods, or whatever they're called. I almost got hit by a drone. That would have knocked me way off course. Alright, let's head over here, figure out what's going on with the cables. My guess is going to be like not enough copper ore or something. I think I upgraded everything in the line up to that. Alright, so we drop down to here and talk to the hover pack. And yeah, you're going at 40%, because you're going at 40%, because you are going at 40%. So you are not getting 75 copper ore per minute. Alright, well, first of all, this belt is going to need to be upgraded. And I think this isn't going to be all that far away. Alright, so we can go back to here. Get you going. Alright, and this is doing 30 per minute. Ah, yes, the classic Mark 1 miner on an impure node. So now you're a Mark 3 miner on an impure node, which will fill up this Mark 2 belt. And that should be quite useful. Alright, so now we can just run back, and we're going to have to wait quite a while for this to actually get through. I should have upgraded this to an even faster belt, just so it starts running sooner. You know what? Sure, this will be funny. You can be a Mark 6. You can be a Mark 6 just so that the output can get there as quickly as physically possible. And, okay, at this point, it's just going to be limited by the mine speed, so there's no need to do any more. Yes, this is outputting as fast as it can, and we don't need 120 copper ore on this belt anyways, technically. We need 75. Alright. Okay, apparently there's one tiny thing in there which was too slow. Alright, so let's just get that going, and now you can go at full speed. So now this is going at full speed. Although actually some of it is going off. Okay, no, some of it's going off that way, but that's fine, because this split accounts for that. This is 75 copper ingots, this needs 37.5. Alright, that's fine. The rest of these is doing okay. Actually, can I just yoink some of that and throw it in there, just for a short-term boost. Obviously we can't maintain the 150 a minute here, but we can have it start up at least. And then the copper sheets, let's see, the copper sheets are doing fine. They're actually about to fill up. That's good by me. Is this Mark 1? Yeah, that probably will never come up, but might as well fix that. Alright, so cable supply is now 75 a minute in the short term, and then it'll eventually stabilize down to the proper 37.5 a minute. And we could use our last summer sloop on this. I don't want to, because I know for a fact that I'm going to leave and forget about it, and then we'll never find that summer sloop again. I'm pretty sure there's at least 10 summer sloops. They're just missing in various machines. In fact, let's just take a glance around and see if I can spot any of them. No, well, it's going to be impossible because they're not going to be running. So yeah, that's that. So the cable supply is now up to almost 600, which means we are only one short of having all the reactors we need. And this is, I mean, it's going to be going at 75 a minute for quite a while, actually. So that's nice. Alright, let's respawn, make our way back to the other location. So we take this hypertube cannon, and we're off. So now we just have to go back. Yeah, you can see all those reactors in a from the distance. They are quite distinctive. And now we can drop down. And we just have to land safely. There we go. We have landed safely. Alright, so now the last couple nuclear power plants, we should be able to get most of them in. You go in, and then you go in, and then this will be the second to last one, and we'll need to wait a little bit for the last one. So in the meantime, we can do some of this other stuff which we haven't been doing. So these need to be connected up like this. And then we need to get the pipes up into the reactors themselves, which I guess we'll start here and then loop around. So all these pipes just go up and across. Alright, this is going. So all these pipes are... this is going to be a nice quick process, and then I think we have to connect the power lines up to all the reactors, which actually might do last, just as sort of like a grand simultaneous turn-on type of thing, although we should get the... we need to get the power... what are they called? Fuel rods. Yes, fuel rods. We need to get the fuel rods into the machines as well, and that's going to take quite a while because I used all Mark 1 belts for this entire thing, basically, except for obviously the waste output. So this just goes up and across. Alright, so that is all in. Now, I would expect, yeah, so we see water filling up basically instantly, and that should be perfectly fine. Giving the water a bit of a head start on everything is never a bad idea. We're going to be giving it a lot of a head start, but that's also fine. Alright, almost there. Just like a couple of these left. Okay, one last one. Alright, so that's all set up. Next step is we need to get the waste belts all merged up. So let's do that. Run all of these back. Why am I doing this? I really need to be prioritizing the fuel rods because it's going to take them forever to get here. But I'm most of the way through this now, so I guess we'll finish it. Alright, so that goes in. This comes back and in. Alright, waste belts all connected up, assuming that I remember to use auto connect build mode for all of them, which I guess if I didn't, we'll find out in a moment. Okay, so then all we need to do is we need to get a splitter like here-ish. So we have a splitter here, which goes one into there, and one all the way over this way. And into that. Then we have to bring that belt all the way back over this way. So this belt goes all the way over this way. And it's gonna sort of zip in like that a little bit maybe, and then that one is gonna come out too. So now both of these go forwards the rest of the way. We are getting a bit close to running into this box, which I guess we don't technically need since we have all of that. Alright, is this just because I have uranium in my... right here? Yeah, I think so. Could be hard to tell. Yeah, so it's going down, which means I don't just have the uranium in my inventory. Alright, so we need to take this out and have you come out to... Actually, we need more space for this arrangement. We need to split you twice in this area. So, you split once, and then a second time. So the second split, one of them goes there, and the other one will come out to where we're going over to this side. And then this one also goes over this way. And I think we have these in the wrong order. I think we want them to be the other way around. Yeah, we definitely want them to be the other way around. So you are going to have to go up and then over, and then you pass under, and then we can just go through like this. So you go forwards like that, and you come around like that, and finally that gets connected across there. Alright, so the fuel rods are now making their way along the belts, and it's going to take them a hot minute to get there. And let me guess, I've wound up with more of those in my inventory. Yep, I have. And of course that's... Let's see, is there more in my inventory that I missed? Or is this just the radiation from being within 100 miles of that? No, I'm pretty sure there's more in my inventory that I missed. Where are you? I don't see it. If I just keep heading over this way, and surely eventually it'll start to go down. No, I think I've had this bug before, actually. Yeah, I think this is a bug, unfortunately. So if I just respawn, will that fix it? Yes, it will. So yeah, it was... I'm pretty sure that was a bug. If it wasn't a bug, and I was just underestimating how far the radiation cloud leaks from the storage containers, then I guess we'll figure out when we get back in the area. But it feels like that was a bug to me. Because I know, because I've had that bug before, where I've like run as far... where like I've had some in my inventory, and then I've deleted it, and it's not realized that I've gotten rid of it. Yeah, because I was like not much further from here, and it was a full radiation bar. Yeah, okay, so that's all sorted. And what else is there? Okay, the power connections into the reactors themselves need to be done, which will be nice and quick. Let's just do that now. I'd considered like trying to coordinate a whole big thing to get them all turned on at once, but that seems more effort than it's worth. So we're just gonna get them going like this. And they'll stagger on over an extended period of time. And I think I still need to place the last one in, actually. Yeah, so I've got a lot of time before the fuel rods make it all the way down there. But as long as the cable supply is good, it shouldn't be an issue. And then, once this is all in, then we're going to have to start trying to chase down any lingering bugs to try to get to the classic 100% efficiency power plant. And it's going to be hard to tell because a lot of the power oscillation, which you can normally do to check for those things, is just coming from the rocket fuel plant, which is in kind of a rough state right now. How do you plan your builds? That is a good question. So I use an external calculator for like figuring out what recipes to use, and then for like figuring out where to place everything, I just sort of do it and hope it works out. A lot of them wind up a bit chaotic as a result, but I also have enough experience that I can mostly get away with that. But yeah, I use an external calculator for like figuring out what alt recipes to use because it's just too complicated. Like there's so many alt recipes, and the way they interact with each other is so complicated that it's just, I could technically spend like an hour probably staring at all of the alt recipes, doing a bunch of math, and then figuring out something that's like almost as good as what an external calculator can come up with. But I'd much rather just use the calculator, and I'll occasionally like make decisions based on that. Like, I don't want to use this particular thing, so let's disable that alt recipe. But for the most part, I pretty much just stick with what it says, and it works out quite well. Alright, I forgot to hook the uranium waste all the way back. So we need to run this along to that side, and then this belt goes back to here. And then we just sort of take that out, put a merger in, and then all this stuff gets connected across. There we go. So that is a whole bunch of uranium waste going out. And based on the fact that there is uranium waste coming out of these, it means that some of them at least have turned on. Seems like just the first couple. Alright, do I have... Yes, I do. Alright, I need to throw that into a box real quick. Alright, so that's what that box is for. And now we can run away from that and get out of the radiation cloud for now. And there's going to be a little bit of radiation because of all the fuel rods on the belts, but as long as we're high up in the air, that won't even be an issue. Alright, so these guys are starting up, and the power is climbing. So that's pretty neat. It's going to take a while for all the fuel rods to turn on, which is why I had meant to run these belts in earlier, to give them a bit of a head start before I did some of the other stuff, but I kept forgetting and doing other things instead. So, let's see here. This back corner is going to be the last one to receive the fuel rods. How far away is it? It's extremely far away is the answer. So that's fine ultimately. The problem could be if the fuel rod production isn't high enough. So if we don't have enough fuel rod production and then we fix it, it's going to take absolutely ages for it to get all the way back there to that corner. But that's just how it is sometimes. Alright, so speaking of which, let's travel over to the fuel rod production side of things and see what it looks like over there, how that's going. Because it's been a while since we checked, and we didn't... I mean, we glanced over it when we finished, but we didn't do a super thorough look through when we finished this, I don't think. Alright, so I'm seeing a lot of green. It's a good sign. So we go all the way up here. This is where things would matter. You're showing 94%. because of not enough rotors. Is that true? 98, 99, 100. Yes. Alright, there is indeed a bit of a rotor problem. It's close, but we don't want it to be close. We want it to be perfect. So, where do the rotors come from? Which one of these belts are they? That's the control rods. This is the rotors here. Alright, so we're just going to follow this back until we see something suspicious. So far, it all looks fine. We're not, like, maxing out the belt or anything. Alright, so you are having screw shortage is what that reads to me, because the copper sheets are all maxed out. Okay, that's perhaps unsurprising. How many screws is this supposed to be? Let's see if I can find the notes over there. Screws for the rotors is 1155.556. So it shouldn't be more than a belt, but it should be very close to a belt, a lot closer than this is. Alright, so let's run back. These are the screw machines, right? Yes. So the screw machines aren't getting enough iron rods. And let's see if we can even spot one of those shortages. It's only going to happen like once every 10 cycles, basically. It happen very infrequently, but it does seem to be happening. All of these guys are showing the same thing, 93%. So the rods going into this are meant to be 288 point something. So the input belt isn't saturated, so that's not the problem, unless one of these belts... Yeah, so none of these belts are being saturated, so that's not the issue. These guys aren't getting enough steel. Alright, so the issue just continues to propagate backwards. Gosh, it's so dark in here that the bright white screen is blinding every time I pull it up. Alright, so nothing wrong on these belts that I can see. This is getting 96% because of iron ingots. Alright, so we follow those back to here. And we have a complicated splitter array. Alright, so what is this guy doing? We've got this over here, which is just doing whatever it wants. Are we occasionally sinking iron? Is that the problem? That's a Mark 1 belt, that's a Mark 1 belt, so the answer to that should theoretically be no. So, are any of these machines not working? I'm seeing a lot of 100s. There could be like one machine which is at like 50% or something causing all this. But no, they all look correct, which means it is just a splitting problem. Now, this side is fully saturated. Okay, there's a sink here. And that's showing 444 iron ingots going out that way, which I believe is the correct amount. Yeah, 4444.444. So that looks exactly correct. Like down to the decimal point approximately. And then the other place the iron ingots go is this, which is just 1200, and that's showing exactly with no issues. So it is this splitter array specifically, which is going 4.4 out to coated plates, 48.148 down to the steel, which is what we care about. Alright, so this belt theoretically is getting more than it needs, which is going to be hard to tell because it's like 5 per minute. Alright, so let's run along this way. And I mean, that doesn't look like it's getting more iron than it needs. If anything, it looks like, I guess, just barely. Let's see here, 95% of 48 would be times 0.0 times, not dot. Would be like 2.4 a minute. So if we're like 2.4 ingots a minute short, then that would track that this wouldn't have filled up all that much, but would have filled up to like 20-ish. Alright, so we're gonna have to return to this and see what the problem is. Alright, so we should theoretically be getting 4.4 out this side. Okay, this is backlogged nearly 100% of the time. That's correct. So priority from the sides. This side isn't backlogged. This side isn't backlogged. Are you backlogged? No, you're going. You're going. Alright, so we have 60. So this belt is 60. And it's going to split into 3. So we have 40 looping back and 20 on this belt. We take that 20, we send 10 that way and 10 this way. We take this 10, we split it into thirds, so we get 3.3 each direction. That stuff loops back. This 3.3 splits that way and that way to get 2.2 and 1.1. That should be correct. That should all line up properly. It should all line up properly. So let's head over to this and see if it's at... It was like oscillating between 17 and 20 when I was last there. And now it might be getting up to 21. Yeah, it probably is going to get up to 21. Maybe even 22? It's going to be close. So this is, I think, doing something fishy. So that is definitely suspicious. But I don't know if it's suspicious enough. Okay, let's get some throughput monitors on just like every belt in here that has enough space to have a throughput monitor on it. This one's just curving too sharply, so we can't do that. And that will include you, I think. Alright. We might have just like done the math wrong on the iron production. That could be it. It's like a weird number. We might have rounded wrong and lost an iron or two. Because this is... It's overflowing, taking only exactly what it needs. And all of these guys are perfect. All those guys are perfect. I haven't seen that sink go ever, so that's not the problem. Okay, this is showing 48. This should be showing 52-ish. A little bit more than 52. Because it's the 48 plus the 4.4. Okay, wait, no, now it's up to 52. That's just because the starting period where there's nothing on it, I guess. Alright, so this is showing 52. This is showing 46. This is showing 10, which is what we want it to be doing. We're sending 3 back there, 2 back there. And you get a 3-point monitor, because why not? Alright. So this is 10. We have 3.3 going out that way, which appears to be the case. We have 3.3 going out this way, of which a third will go into here. 3.3 going in that way. I don't know what I'm missing. I don't understand what it is that I'm missing here that's causing this to not work. But this is definitely showing... I mean, it's hard to tell because it's oscillating. It's hard to tell because it is oscillating a lot. But this is pretty clearly still 94%. And yeah, so it's just stopped now. Okay. How and why? So this should all be working. There's something I'm missing here. There's some way that this is drawing more than it should be. I don't know what that is. None of the belts here, except for this one, are anywhere close to saturated. And based on this being a 10, everything up till there is correct. So the mistake has to be somewhere past this 10. But I can't understand what it is. We have a third going off that way. So that's 3/9 going off that way. We have 2/9 going off that way. That makes 5/9, which means 4/9 going forward that way. Yeah, okay, I just don't understand what the problem is then. I do not get it at all. There should be no way for more to get out of there. There's nothing here past this 10, which is perfectly stable at this point. It's all this stuff is so simple that I don't understand where it's gone wrong. And yet it is clearly gone wrong. So we have to return to my other theory then, which is that I calculated the iron wrong. So, let's see here. Pure iron ingots. We have 1,200 for the pipes, plus 48.148 for the steel, plus 4.444 for the coated iron plates, plus 444.444 for the iron wire, is 1,697.036 iron. 1,697.036. 1,697.036 iron needed. Let's write that down. So then this machine produces 141.049. All of these do that same thing. Right? All of them do. I just have to check all of these. Yes. And then how many of these machines are there? There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 141.049 times 12. Let's actually subtract that. 141.049 times 12. Oh, it is wrong. We're off by 4.4 some. Although, yeah, okay. So that is the problem. We just did the math wrong when we calculated how much iron we need. This isn't a problem, right? So this is just iron ore, water, and that's it. So we should be able to just upgrade those and it'll be fine. Alright, so we need 1,697.036. How much iron ore was this? 900 some, so that should be plenty fine. So yeah, we'd forgotten about the coated iron plates when we calculated how much iron we needed, and as a result we were a little bit short. Alright, so we need to divide this by 12, and this is 141.41974. 141.41974. 0.41974. And it's obviously going to round that a bit, which is fine. And then we just paste this across. And that should magically solve all of our problems. I don't think the extra, like, 1 or 2 iron ore per minute is gonna cause anything to happen. Alright, so that is there. And, okay, now this is the screws still. Right, so that's just downstream of the problem we just fixed. So that's fine, and this should trickle through relatively quickly. So, because this is already set up. This is already set up properly. This is the only bit that wasn't getting enough. So it'll just be however long it takes for one cycle to happen down at the end, and then for that to trickle all the way through this very fast Mark 6 belt, down to the slightly slower Mark 4 belt, and then across this much slower Mark 1 belt. So then, yeah, so it'll start trickling through basically immediately. The steel ingot, they're probably not entirely fixed just yet. We're probably going to have 1 or 2 more cycles where they stop. But then the steel ingots will be going at full blast very soon. So yeah, this looks like it's going up. Looks like that's higher than it was. Hard to say. But now we have enough iron ingots, which means we're going to be producing enough steel ingots, which will then trickle up this belt until we have enough of these, which should be pretty fast. I mean, this is like the shortest line of belts possibly in the entire factory in terms of like amount of belts to amount of steps. So once the steel gets fixed, the iron rods will get fixed. And it looks like that might have happened by this point. It's hard to tell, obviously. It might require one more cycle where it's broken to fully calibrate up to 100%. But it should be close. And then once that happens, then we let that trickle down to the steel to make the screws. And then the screw belt is insanely quick, so that will get up to the rotors instantly, and then it'll take like a million months for the rotors to get there because they're a super long, super slow belt. But that problem is fixed. So now, if there's any other problems, they're going to be elsewhere in the factory. This is the stator production, not the rotor production. Rotor production is over here. So we should see these are probably still going to be low on screws for 1 or 2 more cycles. But it shouldn't be that bad. They should be getting fixed quite soon. And the rotors, I guess they are on a Mark II belt, because it's like 66 point something, so that should also propagate through relatively quickly. And then we'll be good to go. Alright. Yeah, so we still have some of these problems right now. Let's just confirm that that is the same problem. Yep, it is. Now, I will say, the encased uranium cells look suspicious. The reason they look suspicious is because they're not overfilling, despite the fact that the rotors are slowing down how fast this is consuming them. So I'm going to take a look at them real quick also. So if the encased uranium cells were filling at full speed, theoretically we should be able, it should be more than, like, what, a tiny amount of spare in each. So I suspect there might be a problem there. And this is showing 99%, not 100. Alright, so it looks like it's a sulfur input problem, a very minor one, but technically existent nonetheless. Alright, so is that a belt speed problem, or is it an input problem? It very well could be that we just don't have enough sulfur input, because we're taking it via drone port, and drone ports are not the quickest in the world. Let's see here. Sulfur is 833 in total. So it could be that there's like a Mark V belt somewhere in here that's causing it to be slower than it should be. No, okay, this is definitely wrong. This is dramatically wrong, actually. That's nowhere close, is it? That's... Okay, yeah, so we are having sulfur input problems, definitely. 100%. Alright, we're going to have to solve those next time around. It is about when I normally wrap up the streams. So, yeah, we're going to wrap up the stream here. So thanks everyone for hanging out. We have a nuclear power plant. It's going over there and should be mostly solid. We still have to continue bug fixing, you know, getting the sulfur throughput, but this is the chart you'll love to see. Production and capacity well above consumption and max consumption. And that should give us, I mean, this alone should give us the power production we need to get through the rest of the game. I'm going to go up to plutonium and eventually fixonium at some point, just to say that I did. But we shouldn't have power worries as long as this factory continues working more or less correctly. So that is huge progress today. So that's about it. Thanks everyone for hanging out. I will see you guys next time. I stream every weekday from 2 to 5 Eastern Time, and I alternate between Satisfactory and Factorio. So if you're interested in either of those games, make sure to give me a follow so that you know when I'm live, and stop by in the future. So thanks everyone for hanging out.